fight their oil war. National Geographic and the Times-Picayune, they forecast the apocalypse, said it was coming soon. Preparations must be made, they said, now is the time. It was years ago, they shouted, inaction was a crime. They said the dikes must be improved and the wetlands must be saved. But Washington decided instead they should be paved, 'cause malls were more important than people.
Bringing peace and social justice issues into your living room, piece by piece. I'm your host, Pat Miner, and we have with us a very special guest this evening, Professor John Dabeet. He's been on our show before, and he is happy to come back and tell us all about his role in the Palestinian bid for UN membership.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you, Pat. And well, first of all, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your show tonight, talking to your audience about the Palestinian bid to United Nations. This past summer, I was appointed to be the coordinator of Palestine state bid to United Nations by the National Campaign for the State of Palestine and by the PLO and government officials. And I returned back from Palestine and started to do our work and started to educate, first of all, people about the reason why now we need to go to United Nations and present our case there. And of course, we started to contact different organizations, NGOs, and governmental officials and stuff like that. And then we ended up in New York the day President Mahmoud Abbas delivered his historic speech to the General Assembly on Friday, September 23rd. I was among the audience at the General Assembly for the speech, and after that, I was outside. I went outside to lead the rally outside the United Nations in support of President Mahmoud Abbas and in support of the Palestinian bid to become a full member at the United Nations. And also another thing that I did is I delivered the national campaign speech for, at that rally. So that's mainly what I did in New York.
Wow, that sounds like you had a great time up there. Shall we start with talking a little bit about, we've been doing some talking about it, but you know exactly what the bid was all about and why they decided to go that route?
Well, I think that's a good thing to start with, as a matter of fact. I think one of the things that we have to recognize that the U.S. foreign policy for the past 20 years in regard to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been failing. And we start seeing ourselves as Palestinians investing in really making peace based on justice with the Israeli side. But on the other hand, we started to see the Israeli side investing their time in building more illegal settlements, in confiscating more lands, and in building the apartheid wall. And as a result of that, we started to see that as we are approaching the just peace with the Israelis, we are losing more and more of our land. And we went back many times to the U.S. Side, and we kept telling them that this stuff must stop because, they are confiscating land and trying to force the final settlement, as a matter of fact, based on what they are creating on the ground. And unfortunately, the American side didn't react in a way that it can lead to stopping the Israeli aggression against Palestinians and against the Palestinian lands. So 20 years passed, and we start seeing that we're losing more and more. So Palestinians decided to organize and go back and bring back the Palestinian-Israeli conflict to, according to how I see it as a person, to where it's supposed to be, the United Nations. And let the United Nations, as a matter of fact, make that decision. So mainly by doing something like that, we took the the conflict from what I call the back alleys, where Israel and the United States would love, of course, to solve it in those back alleys in favor of Israel, back to the United Nations and let the United Nations and the international community interfere in this issue and come up with the right solution for that. So that's part of the reason why we decided to go that route. Now, of course, the United States has really a strong opposition for what we did, and I can summarize the two reasons. One, by taking this conflict back into the United Nations, the United States will be losing what I will call their prestige status over this issue. So it's not solving this in the back alley anymore. Now there is an international community that's going to interfere, that's going to really demand certain things of Israel to do according to the international laws and according to United Nations and Security Council resolutions. So that's one reason why the United States are opposing our move. The other, of course, is that once you take it back to the United Nations, the solution has to be based on United Nations resolutions, which, of course, Israel have been playing around and putting every single pressure on every single side so that they will not be held responsible. And at the end, we solve the issue based and the conflict based on United Nations resolutions and, again, Security Council resolutions.
How many resolutions are there against Israel now?
A lot.
45
a lot.
or something?
More even than that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the Security Council resolutions, I mean, since 1948 till now, the United States veto around 45 resolutions that condemn the Israeli acts against the Palestinians. But we do have a lot of General Assembly, also resolutions and so on.
I think it's a very savvy move myself, because it looks like, I mean, one of the reasons that I think, and this, you sort of hinted at this, but one of the reasons the United States is so against it and threatens to veto it is because they know that it'll be Israel and the United States against almost everybody else.
The rest of the world.
Yeah, the rest of the world. And they do not want to be marginalized in this way. And I think that's, that is one of the main objections they've had. But I also heard, and you're the person to talk to about this, that there was dissension among the Palestinians, is that not all Palestinians thought this was a good idea.
Yes, and let's face it, I think it's normal. I think it's normal for people to disagree. It's like we see disagreements here in the United States. Not everybody in the United States think the same or think alike or act alike. We see that among the Israelis and we see that among the Palestinians. But overall, the majority of Palestinians decided to stand and support the Palestinian bid at the United Nations because I think by going to the United Nations, we are bringing the Palestinian issue back as the #1 issue at the United Nations, which unfortunately we lost that for the past 20 years, trying to solve the conflict with the Israelis via the quartet and under the auspices of the United Nations and Russia and the European Union and, of course, the United Nations. But as I said, let's face it, the United States played, the major role in the quartet. And as a result of that, we didn't see any improvement. As I said, unfortunately, Israel decided to invest in more settlements. Israel decided to invest in building the wall, the apartheid wall. Israel decided to invest in confiscating land. Israel decided to invest in killing more and more Palestinian civilian innocent. Israel decided to invest more in imprisoning more and more Palestinians. taking their homes, or even using the collective punishment against all Palestinians again. And it's, you know, you reach a point that you have to do something. You have to do something in order to protect your people that have been suffering for years and years and years under the Israeli occupation for all these years. And that's mainly why most Palestinians decided that it's a good move to go to United Nations and bring that issue back to the United Nations and let the issue be solved based on the international community and based on the international resolutions.
Well, it always amazes me because the three criterion that they always want to use is first of all, we're supposed to accept Israel as the Jewish state, then we're supposed to lay down all arms and denounce violence, and then we're supposed to adhere to all past agreements. Well, it seems to me that the Israelis aren't doing. Have they recognized Palestine as a state?
No.
So why do the Palestinians need to recognize Israel as a state?
And
And Hamas, and they have laid down their arms. There's been a ceasefire in Gaza for how long now?
For a good number of years.
And as far as adhering to past agreements, we just talked about all the UN resolutions against Israel. Have there been any UN resolutions against Palestine?
Nothing that we know of.
So, you know, I mean, and Oslo, I mean, I don't know if you know, do you know Gershon Baskin? Have you met him?
Yeah, I heard
he
of
was
him.
actually here in Iowa City a couple of years ago, maybe now. And I had the opportunity to go listen to him speak. And the one thing that he said that sticks in my mind to this day is he stood up there and said, as far as the Oslo Accords is concerned, Palestine has fulfilled every single obligation under Oslo that they were obliged to. Israel has fulfilled none of them.
I agree with that assessment 100%.
So you're like, well, okay, so if they want us to adhere to the Oslo agreements, they're the ones that aren't following through.
You are definitely right, and that's why, you know, what bothered me the most is like when you hear, like, you know, the State Department officials saying, okay, well, the negotiation is the only way to Palestinian state. I said, you know, it must be a joke, because what kind of negotiation? We have been negotiating for 20 years, and we are losing, and we are seeing in our eyes losing more and more of our land to the Israelis, settlements, and so on. So what do you want us to negotiate? Right. Negotiate for another 100 years? For 200 years?
It's become my belief over the years that I've been involved with this issue that that's exactly what they want. They want to continue to negotiate, because while they're doing that, they continue to build facts on the ground. And you know, as well as I do, that you know, what they announced just again last week, that they were going to build some more, you know, and what is the United States response? Hillary Clinton gets up and says, oh, this is very unhelpful.
Do something about it. Do something about it, and don't use the veto against, you know, a Security Council that condemned this kind of move.
It's a little more than unhelpful.
Yeah. Yes,
you know,
definitely.
and then the Palestinians say, okay, so we're not going to come to the negotiating table until you stop the settlements. And the Israelis say, those are preconditions.
Yeah. It's double standard as usual, yeah, as usual. But yeah, it's. I think, you know, I'm in full support of what President Mahmoud Abbas is doing for Palestinians, and on behalf of the Palestinians, I'm in full support of the national campaign for the state of Palestine to be as the state number 194 to join the United Nations as a full member. I think it's time for something like that. Let's remember part of the history. 3 years ago, after President Obama was elected as a president for the United States, in his speech in Cairo, at the University of Cairo, he mentioned it very clear that no one ever suffered as the Palestinian people, and we expected him to do something about this suffering. And unfortunately, we see him like turning his back on Palestinians. Last year, at the United Nations General Assembly meeting, in his speech, he said, We are hoping that next year we will be welcoming the state of Palestine to join the United Nations as a full member. Guess what? This year they're saying no. When we requested that, they're saying no. Go back to negotiation. So I mean, the foreign policy right now, I mean, they are giving us really different signals. Every day we are getting different signals. But for us as Palestinians, as I started to say, to all media people and also to even politicians, Congress members, and Senate, House, and so on, I started to say that, guess what? Palestinian rights are not up for negotiation anymore.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to do now. If you want to be an objective broker of peace, we welcome you to be an objective broker of peace, but we cannot welcome you as a broker of peace taking a side of Israel and trying to stop everything the Palestinians wants to do.
So what exactly is happening now? Are they going to have a vote on this?
Well, that's a good question, as a matter of fact. You see, after President Abbas, when President Abbas submitted the request to Ban Ki-moon on the 23rd of September, mainly Ban Ki-moon referred that request to the Security Council. Now, they started to debate that, and then, of course, they had to send that to what they call the Security Council Membership Committee. And this Security Council Membership Committee's job is just to go over the application and the paperwork and so on to make sure that everything is right and there's no problem filling all the paperwork and the applications and everything. We expected them to finish with that within 2 weeks. Now, after they are done with that, now they recommend that everything is okay. Now the United States wants to go and start taking one piece at a time and discuss that. And we know what they are doing that to gain some time. But simply, we're expecting the Security Council, regardless of the situation, we're expecting the Security Council to vote on that maximum by November 11, which will be coming soon within like 2 weeks. So that's our expectations. They are doing a lot of twisting arms for some of the countries that serves on the Security Council to vote against that, so that we don't get 9 votes. And the U.S. will not be using veto in this case. So we are doing our part, they are doing their part, and you know, when it comes to the table, we're hoping
Have we got 9 votes yet?
We are hoping Gabon now made their decision that they will be voting for the Palestinian bid. So we are hoping that we'll have the 9 votes when they bring that to the table and vote on that, and we'll see. I mean, we know that we can also do other things. We can go through the General Assembly for a non-member state, which will be an easy thing for us to do, and we can become a non-member state and share that status with the Vatican, which is the only non-member state at the United Nations, at least as a first step. So we'll see. I mean, we have different strategies, and we'll see, you know. But I know for sure that President Mahmoud Abbas, for example, today in front of the Fatah Revisionary Council, he made it very clear that he is going all the way till the end, and he will be asking for the full membership all the way till the end, and it's not going to change. He's not going to change that.
Well, I don't know how it's going to go, but I expect, as I imagine most people do, that the United States will veto. And
I assume if we have the 9 votes, definitely the U.S. will veto that.
So we can expect that there will not be a recognition of as a member state, but you said they're going to go as a non-member state?
We can go to the General Assembly and ask for a non-member state, which of course it will be much better for us than what we have right now, because right now we only have an observer status. So to move to non-member state will give you more rights as part of the United Nations than just the observer. The only thing that you cannot do as a matter of fact, as a non-member state, will be voting on issues.
Right.
But for example, as a non-member state, we can approach the Security Council ourselves and ask them to debate certain issues. Right now, as an observer, we cannot do that. We have to go through other countries, request that from, let's say, Egypt or Jordan or wherever Arab country or the Arab League to go on our behalf and request that session. So we get definitely much better deal than what we have right now, even though we are still concentrating on the idea of full member, because we think of that as a right and as a Palestinian right that we're not going to negotiate.
Yeah, well, that's very important. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how widespread this was, but I can't remember even if I saw something on TV or if I read an article, but it was talking about at least one or two households where they were not necessarily supporting President Abbas when he went to the UN, but then they heard this speech, and that changed their minds.
I will tell you one thing. I mean, his speech was unbelievable. It's history. I mean, it's just like to be there and hear him talking as firsthand. I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, I almost had tears in my eyes when I saw, you know, when I saw everybody at the General Assembly standing up, presidents, kings, prime ministers, ambassadors, everybody standing up for him many times and clapping for him. I mean, it brought almost tears in my eyes because, you know, it is important for us to have our homeland. I mean, it's a human right issue. I mean, we don't deny anyone to have their homeland, their independent homeland. We always say, well, why others have to deny us from having an independent homeland? It is a right for us. We want our kids, at least, to live in peace. We want to live in dignity. We want to have peace that is based on justice. We want to be able to go to the streets and not be afraid that we might get a bullet from an Israeli soldier. We wanna live in peace and justice and find out that we govern ourselves and we decide our destination and our future, and not the Israeli occupation forces who will decide our destination and our future, and who will decide if they want to let me go from Ramallah to Jerusalem today or no, they are not going to let me go from Ramallah to Jerusalem. Right. So we are not asking for a lot. We are asking to be recognized like as any other nation, as any other country. And I think Americans, and I talk to a lot of Americans, I differentiate between the American public and the American people and the U.S. foreign policy. I mean, a lot of Americans are standing with us. A lot of Americans are wishing Palestinians to have their homeland. They are supporting. I see their support for our organization, the Americans and Palestinians for Peace. They are very supportive of our organization. They are very supportive of where we stand on this issue. And I think it takes some education, and hopefully one day the American public will put the pressure on our elected people in Washington, whether the president or Congress members from Senate to House, and let them act as or how they should act when it comes to the Palestinian issue.
Yeah. Let's take this opportunity to talk a little bit about, you mentioned your organization, AMPAL, Americans and
Palestinians for Peace.
For Peace. And I know that you went to Palestine this summer for your organization, and yes. Also you were working on a sister city relationship between yes. Ramallah and Muscatine.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
correct?
Well, I went on two missions. One mission representing Muscatine sister city in establishing the sister city relationship between the city of Muscatine and the city of Ramallah. And it was really a great thing to finally have the agreement finalized, signed by our mayor here in Muscatine, Mayor O'Brien, and the mayor of Ramallah, Mayor Janet Mikhail. It was a great moment to see both cities are becoming twin sister cities, and that's really a good thing. So that's one of my mission, and we were very happy. The city of Ramallah, they did really a good. They were very nice to me, representing Muscatine sister city. They hosted me very well. And I'm looking forward to work with them. We as Sister City are looking forward to continue to work with them, and we're hoping, as a matter of fact, to have delegate groups to go and visit Ramallah next summer.
Oh, that'd be great.
So that's one thing that we are doing.
Are you going to be working on specific projects together as well, or?
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, first of all, I think in the beginning we want people to meet each other and get to know each other. But the long run goals will be like to connect the college with the college, the school with the school, the hospital with the hospital, the Chamber of Commerce with Chamber of Commerce, and things like that.
Great.
So that will be our long run goal, and hopefully we'll achieve that too. So that's one project. The other project, of course, I went there to continue what I started last year in my visit to Palestine and Ramallah last year. I had many meetings with NGOs, heads of NGOs, talking about how can we cooperate together as NGOs to better serve Palestinians, and that's very important. And based on my visit, we decided really as an organization, we decided to start some social projects in Palestine, and mainly in Ramallah. Well, as a result of meeting with heads of NGOs and different organizations, I find out that, for example, certain NGOs that works with kids, Palestinian kids, they were telling me that those kids can go throughout the whole school years without even dreaming of carrying a new bag to school. And you know, we take things like that for granted here in the United States. And you know, it's just like, I felt really bad just hearing that. And we decided as an organization, we decided to start a small social project in Palestine with two NGOs. One of them is Give Palestine, and the other one is the Ramallah Social Center. So both organizations deals with kids, and those kids comes either from needy families, or maybe their parents are dead, or one of their parents is dead, or maybe their parents are in Israeli jails and they're taking care of them. So what we did is we decided to come up with a project for both organizations, and I was very happy to see AMPAL, the Americans and Palestinians for Peace, leading that project in giving those kids in each organization a brand new, again, bag, school bag with everything that you can imagine inside that, from pencils to crayons to papers to everything that you can imagine that you can carry in that bag. So I wasn't there when we finalized that project. I asked my brother to act on my behalf in distributing those bags to one organization, which is the Ramallah Social Center. And the other one, we decided to give them money donations towards that project that they are working on. And I received, you know, some pictures from back home. And, you know, it's just like to look at the kids' faces and how happy they are. Again, it's just like unbelievable because, you know, they never thought that they will ever have, you know, a bag like that, a new bag and stuff like that. So